Alright, today's video is going to be on what type of macros I use for multi-boxing. Now, my macros are pretty standard. They're not sophisticated. A lot of people think that you're going to get in there and make these like really long 5-line macros, and then it doesn't always work out as expected. So, while for some instances there may be a 5-line macro, I don't normally use them. But what I do is I set every character up the same way. For example, we'll just start making some macros here. I always have on every character I have a follow, and you start /target, and this is going to be your tank's name. So let's say that my tank's name was Tank, the actual character name Tank. Usually you put a pause in here, but I always pause 10, and what the numbers mean when you put a pause in there, 10 is actually in tenths of seconds, so 10 tenths of seconds is actually 1 second, so 100 is 10 seconds, etc. And then the reason I issue it like this is because if you just put /target tank or target character's name and then the next line's follow, sometimes it tells you that it doesn't have a target, so there's like this little bit of latency or delay in between, so I always put a pause in there. And that follow key always goes in the number 0, so no matter what, I always have in the 0 except on my main character, except on the tank, or if you're playing like an Enchanter, Bard, Cleric combo, then your Enchanter is your lead character. So whatever your lead character is that you're going to be doing the most of and playing the most of, that's who you're going to be targeting, that's who you're going to be following. So I have that as 0 on every character except my main character, and the reason is because first, it's easy to memorize. I can hit 0 on like 10 different keyboards at once. But if you're going to be using things like synergy or multiplicity, where say even on like my 4-box setup where I have a 4-box on one monitor, sharing one keyboard and mouse with one of those quadra input screens that you've seen in my other videos. So it's basically one monitor, 4 characters on the screen, 4 mini PCs, and then on one of those mini PCs there's a keyboard and a mouse that's shared through multiplicity or synergy you could use. You can pass keystrokes through, so if I were to press 0, all 4 of them would press 0 at the same time, meaning that it would follow. So a lot of my things are set up just in case I were to ever use synergy or multiplicity, which I do have installed in those big quadra displays that you've seen in the other videos. If 0 were to do something different on every single one and you pass it through, it would just create a lot of confusion. So I always have the keys doing the same or the same functions in the same order. So the number 1 key that everybody has is follow. Now if you're on a melee character, and you can put these wherever the hell you want. This is not a melee character, but if you were on a melee character, I have an assist key called assist. /assist. The name of the character is assisting. So Tank's probably a bad example because it makes it look like we're assisting Tank, but let's say my character's name is Tank. That key always goes in number 3, and that's for the same reason. If I have 4 melee characters on one of my big quadra setups and I'm using multiplicity, press 3 at assist. So assist in itself by default does not turn on auto attack. So if you watch here in the screen, on every character or every computer that you're on, you have to turn this on. So it's assist on is the command, and now it says auto attack on assist is on. So if you're doing a melee character, you press 0, it follows that tank around, it follows your main character around, it follows whatever character around, and then what happens is, because assist is on, when you press the number 3, which is where my assist is, it will turn on auto attack. And when they're following you, let's pretend that this is the guy that's following me here. So let's pretend that this is my character right here. So he's on follow. So when you're tanking or doing your business, and you tell this character here to assist on the other computer, so you press the number 3, you want to try to position the mob in between you, because follow will not break when he assists an auto attack, so he can continue to follow you around while he's assisting you. Now the only time follow will break, you can even press forward, but if you press back, left, or right, or anything else, it will break the follow and you got to refollow. But this character will continue, if he's following you, will continue to follow you around at this certain gap, which it might be similar to like this. And then what you want to do as a tank or as a lead character is you want to try to place mobs in between right here. And then you can have as many melees as you want following you around, and they'll all be on this side attacking when you press assist, and then you'll be here tanking. So that's how melee characters work, and it's really easy to do, and you really don't need anything else on your hotkeys for that. Sometimes you can put, if you want to make put your combat abilities or disciplines up there, but melee characters become really easy, especially at level 61. You get the auto skills, so things like for rogues you can auto skill like backstab, so you're not so much worried about pressing like the backstab. However, if you had say 4 rogues that you're boxing, you could put backstab in the same slot, but you want to keep it similar. So if you're going to put backstab at 2 on number 1, and you're going to put say a kick or a flying kick off a monk, You want to put that also number 2 in case you're using something like Synergy Multiplicity, so that that type of ability is in the same spot. So you press 2, it does its flying kick, it does its backstab, etc. So now where people get confused or where they want to learn a little bit more is they think there's a really big deal into making these macros for casters. So the way I do casters is you still have your 0 for follow. That's the follow macro. And then you still have your assist key, and there's a few ways that you can do this. Some people like to do like the mega macro. So say that you're on a wizard. So this is going to be, we'll just call it nuke. The thing to remember is no matter where you put the pause command, it's always read last. So you want to start off, say cast, and it looks like my nuke is in spell gem slot number 1. So here's my nuke, whatever the hell this is, Enchanter. So cast spell slot 1, and it's 1, 2, you know, top to bottom. And then we're gonna add a pause. The way that we're gonna add a pause, if we're just gonna chain nuke, so you'll see here the cast time 1.5 seconds. There's usually a bit of server delay, so I'll put, you know, /pause 25. That would be 2.5 seconds. You know, and you could do this on every line. So that can go all the way down. And then what you'd have is he would literally cast this 5 times in a row, pauses in between. If you're finding that he's like trying to cast while he's still casting or hasn't reset yet, increase the pause time. So you could do it this way. So you could press 3, and then wherever we put this nuke, say we put it at 1. So 3 will assist, and then 1 to nuke. And what that's going to do is it will assist the tank or assist the character you want to assist, and then this will start nuking by casting 1 with the pause in between. Some people don't like that. They want to do it all at the same time. So, you know, let's say assist, tank. It will cast number 1, which is Shallow Breath, and you can keep doing that. So now you don't have to no longer hit the number 3 key. You can just hit this nuke key right here, and it will assist your tank and pause. You could do that. You could move this to the number 3 key. Now, the reason I don't do these chain nukes is because sometimes you don't want to chain nuke. So where this starts to become a problem is when you're doing something that has utility. All right, here we have a level 70 Enchanter on a fresh computer. So as I was saying, we'll always have a follow key. Mandatory in the slot 0. And you can make, this shit doesn't need to be here. You can make a assist to Tash and slow, so this could be like slow. And we're going to say assist Frank the tank. And we got to put a pause in there. Remember, the pauses are always red at the end anyways, so I could have put this at the start. So now we're assisting Frank the tank. We're waiting for 0.1 seconds. We're going to cast spell 1, which is Tashani. And then we're going to pause for, so it's a 1 second cast, so we probably want to pause for 20, give it a second for server delay. And then we are going to cast number 8, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, because I have an extra slot. So number 8 is my slow. We'll cast that. So this will assist Frank the tank, which is the name of your character. Then it will pause for 1 second. It will cast number 1, Hollow to Shaman, and it will pause for 2 seconds, and then it will follow with slow. So the problem that you run into is if any of this stuff starts to fizzle, or you don't actually want to debuff the character. So you could do the slow this way, but what I like to do is, you know, you can have this key and still put it anywhere on the bar. So we'll just keep this key, and we'll actually call it, you know, debuff slow. We'll just call it that, and we'll put that over here at number 4. So number 4 is our debuff and slow Eldritch Ruin. That's an A ability. So number 4, debuff and slow. But let's say I just wanted the debuff, and I'm just gonna call debuffing Tash. You can add any spells you want to this. So we're going to assist Frank the tank, and then we're going to pause for 2 seconds, and we're just going to cast 1. So this right here will assist Frank the tank. Oops. Put that number 1. So number 1 is my debuffs, and I'll do this the same, like say on the Shaman. Number 1 will be Mallow, like Number 1, everybody else will be some type of debuff or something that happens before the fight. That way, if I'm ever using synergy or multiplicity, it passes the same type of command through. And then let's say we separate slow. So this could be assist Frank the tank. I think this can be pause 10. I don't think we had to, because it's just pausing between the assists. And this could be slow, which is number 8, and cast 8. So there's our slow. So in a fight, you got follow set. You press number 1, it will cast Shaman. Press number 2, it will slow the mob. If you press number 4 instead of 1 or 2, it will cast Shaman and it will slow the mob. So it depends on your preference of play. I like to keep it separated because, like I said, sometimes, especially early on when you're leveling up, you know, you get like the Tashani will fizzle or your slow will fizzle, and then you got to press the macro, and what's it going to do? It's going to Tashani and slow again. So early on, I like to keep it separated, but I like to keep it that way anyways for cleanliness, because sometimes you're not the one slowing. Sometimes you just got to toss out a Tash and your Shaman slowing. So I like to space it like that, but, you know, 1 debuff, 2 slow. And now let's say for some reason this Enchanter's got a nuke, you know. So I have a nuke spell here, number 2, same shit. So we'll call this nuke. So we are assisting Frank the tank. Can't even spell. And we're gonna pause for 10 seconds. Will acquires or 10/10ths of a second, 1 second. Will acquires target. And cast 2. Now, just casting 1 insta 2 is probably not how this is usually used. So you can also add more lines. So this is a 6-second cast. It's pretty bad. We're going to want to pause for at least 7 seconds. Now, a lot of people will rewrite this like this, as I said before. Pause 70, cast 2. No matter what, in each individual line, the pause is right after. So this will actually cast 2 and pause 70. But people prefer to write them in this fashion. And we can just keep doing that. If you find yourself interrupting your casting or saying the spell not ready yet, you need to increase the amount that you pause. So in this macro, you're getting 4 nukes off, which, fuck, something should be dead after that long. This could actually get kind of annoying to have that many nukes in one macro. Pressing this one will cast 4 nukes after assisting. Now, if you watch some of the other parts, I am making a separate assist key. So if you were to say have 3 set, you know, the number 3 key set to assist, you could actually put 5 nukes in here. So that you'd press number 3 to assist, and let's say this is number 5. So you press 5 and it will nuke 5 times, but 4 is pretty decent. So you can do an assist and nuke all together like that. You can put that at 5, put it at 3. Now the other things that you're going to want to do off Enchanters, I always manually buff, but you have things like AE Mez. You can literally just drag that onto, you know, because you can cast it with your self-targeted, so you don't necessarily make a hotkey for that. The risk you run into is you might actually Mez yourself. You can see I resisted that. You could, instead of just, you know, having this on the bar and cast it on yourself, you could, you know, make a hotkey for your Mez. I don't find myself actually doing AE Mez and stuns, but Enchanters do have AE stuns and Mezes. You can either drag them onto the bar there, or simply make a macro. Let's just call this AE Mez. And this can be done with single target too, but the area effect is going to target. So let's say that, and this is why it gets kind of difficult, because usually you don't want to be assisting your tank unless it's ahead of time, because they're going to be attacking the thing you Mez. But because this is an area effect Mez, it will actually work out. So we're going to assist Frank the tank, pause for 10, and then we are going to cast number 9, because I have 9 on this one, which is AE Mez. Now it's going to target the mob that your tank is fighting. So the Mez is obviously going to get broken right away, but because it's AE, it's actually going to hit, you know, in the area around and Mez everything else. So Mez gets a little bit tricky. So I usually will manually target stuff. I just click it off here. But say you wanted to manually click something on the screen and you didn't want to come over here and click, you know, sure enough, here's a single target Mez. Drag that shit to the bar, and 5 is my Mez. Click Mez, and, you know, kind of a bitch to do. Hopefully you're prepared better so you're not having the Mez stuff, but there's not really a good way to macro in the Mezes except for the area effect Mez. So that's literally all I have at the Enchanter. I do my buffs myself. I do the Mezes usually myself. On her bar also, you know, I have like a rune up. This is an A rune, but this could be dragged to the bar. And so, like, say like this is like a rune, or say you have like invulnerabilities, like make sure that if you're going to be using multiplicity or some type of synergy program, that these similar type spells are in the same spot. So let's say that, you know, you press 7 and it shoots it across to 4 or up to, I think, 9 characters or whatever the hell you're playing at that time. And that could have, you know, different repercussions depending on what's that number 7 slot. So what I'll actually do is 7's pretty far out, so I'll actually leave everything blank on the other characters. So when you send the 7 through, it doesn't do anything on the other characters. So that's an option too, is you kind of work yourself around not having anything on these other bars. You know, for example, I try to keep all my casters on one 4-box setup with one multiplicity if I use it. So the debuff either might be like a debuff for all the classes I'm playing, or it might just be blank on the other 3. And you know, nuke is pretty common, so if I press nuke and it sends the number 3 through, it might actually run a nuke macro on the other 3 screens, which is fine. You know, if they don't have a slow or something that's similar to slow, number 2 will be blank on the other ones. So similar spells I'll put in the similar spots and I keep it the same. So if you were to use this setup, 1 you always want to be your debuff, 2 would be like a slow or something similar that you'd use. I don't know what that would be, maybe a snare. So you press 2 and it shoots it across. You got a druid on one of the other screens. So this guy slows, this guy snares, maybe something like that. 3 is nukes are pretty common. Almost everybody that's a caster has nukes, so everybody would nuke. So you kind of keep this things in the same spots. And then, like I said, follow is like on everything except my main lead, my main tank, whatever I'm doing the most work on. So I'll switch to Shaman to show you, and I'll switch to Cleric after that. And then you can take a look at those. We've covered melee on that first character. They're all easy. It's literally follow, make sure assist is on, and then assist, and then don't break the follow. Alright, so here we have a fresh Shaman. I'm not going to set up the same keys as I had on the Enchanter. You already know what they are. So, you know, 0 would be where I put follow, 1 would be where I put mallow. So this would be number 1, mallows. Number 2, you know, I'd make a hotkey for slowing. Right now I have this AoE slowing because that's what I was using. So, and then number 3 is usually the assist on melee. One thing that I do like to say is I like to leave, because 3 is assist on my melee, I also like to keep 3 for some type of, like, you know, either some types of nukes I'll keep on number 3, or some type of other actions. So with a Shaman, you know, we have a lot of damage over time spells. So Blood of Yappa here is in slot number 5. So what we can do is pet attack, because we should have a pet up. And then we'll just throw in some type of pause. Actually, getting ahead of myself. We have to assist Frank the tank. We can pause after we assist. And then we will pause briefly at the end after sending the pet into attack. And then we will cast, well, let's add this pause in. Which we don't need the pause. Let's do a quick pause again. Clear. There's a 3-second cast, but /cast. Number 5. And then you could follow on with whatever dots you want, and make sure that, you know, because you're casting 5 and that's a 3 seconds, we're going to make this actually 40. 1 more second more than the cast time. So then I don't know what else we'd cast out, because I don't have much up. But, you know, say you wanted to cast something else after, you could do that. So that's normally I would put something like this in the number 3. So number 3 does similar functions. For melee, it's assisting and it's auto attacking. For casters, I'm getting, you know, my pet attacking, I'm getting my dots on. Number 3 would be where I put all the nukes for all the casters. So like in the last example, that nuke key would actually go in the number 3 spot, so that all of my melee is assisting, everybody's pet attacking, and everybody's nuking. And also, I forgot to mention, because the Enchanter was last, if you're charming with the Enchanter, then number 3 would also send your pet into attack. So the only other thing now is different with the Shaman is we wouldn't want to make tank heal keys, because the Shaman does heal, and you have like a torpor line, which is Spiritual Serenity at level 70, and then you have like your quick heals, and it's Will 6 mending, it looks like, and this expansion. So all that is going to be is target Frank the tank, get a pause in, and cast 1, which is that. So now I have my tank heal, and I put that where the fuck I want. You know, make sure that if it's either in an empty spot, if you're using multiplicity or synergy on the other characters, or if you're playing each character individually, it doesn't matter where you put anything. So number 4 is going to target Frank the tank and is going to heal him. Now let's say that I know I have a big fight coming up and I don't want to be spending time focusing on healing. Well, Will 6 mending has 3.75 second cast, so we're going to want to pause, for, let's say, well, we'll just throw pause 50 so it's even. Slash cast 1. And we're just going to keep doing that. So this is like for a big fight, you know. So now we know we don't have to pay attention to the heals because we know they're coming. You should still pay attention because who fucking knows if something happens to this. But now it's going to target Frank the tank, slight pause, and cast 4 times while 6 betting. So that would be your heal, but a lot of people like to start off. So say you didn't want to separately cast Spiritual Serenity. This is the number 2 slot. This could just become number 2. It's a 6-second cast, so we have to go, you know, 1 second above it. So cast 2 pauses right at the end. So while it's casting, it's pausing for 7 seconds. Hopefully that's far enough. If you're finding that this next cast 1 is actually starting to break into this Spiritual Serenity cast, slowly increase. You know, you can go 55 here, you go 75 up here. You know, you got to play around it because this does not, you know, include the server lag. Sometimes you have worse latency. Shit like that happens. So you get these timings tweaked up right if you're going to have big macros like this. I tend to don't have big macros like this. I'll pretty much leave it, you know, just cast 2 and everything else gone. So it's just a heal, and I'll hit it a bunch of times. And, you know, that's what it is. It's not that you have these big, fancy, elaborate macros. It's that you are familiar with the setup on every keyboard. So 0 is follow, 3 is assist, a nuke, 1 is debuff, 2 is slow, 4 is heal. So as you're doing this, you're like a DJ. That's what it is. It's, you know, in RTS, when you used to play Warcraft 2 on Battle.net and StarCrafts, you know, it's actions per minute. It's how many times you click per minute. But when you're playing Everquest, there's a lot of times you have no actions at all, but then you got to be fast. So it's like actions per 5 seconds. How fast can you get your whole group set up and everything taken under control? And that's what you're really trying to do. These macros can be bad. If you were to press something that's elaborate like this and you need to do something else, I don't know what that could be, a debuff or slow, this motherfucker might be still trying to cast something and it might be just hard to break out of, you know. So I tend to just kind of manually do a lot of stuff, so I don't really get these big lazy macros, but you know, you can do them. And let's see, the last character I'll probably show you, because we covered melee, covered utility like enchanters with slow, shamans with slow with a heal. Well, let's go to the cleric next, and then really not much else that you really have to do. Like I said, any of your A abilities or your combat skills or whatnot and cookies, while those can be put into macros, I'll link in the bottom some of the guides that you can use to actually make more fancy macros, but really, like, it's not really necessary just to play the game at a basic level. You know, when you're boxing, you're not going to have like top DPS on everything. You're not, you know, still having the actual person playing the characters be better. But let's switch to cleric so that you can see what like a pretty much primary healer looks like. And hint, it's not going to be that much different than what we just did. Everything should be making sense by now, but we'll switch. All right, cleric, not going to be much different. You obviously 0 here will be where you put your follow. You have not really debuffs or slows that you're going to use, so you could put anything there. Market Kings, like anything. You do have nukes, which you could put at 3 to assist. I try to keep my clerics on their own computers or their own setups with like-minded, similar type playstyles. So like druids, clerics, shamans, like those type of things. But mainly my clerics are always separated, and so are my tanks. They're never on a joint computer or a multi-box setup where they're all being controlled in multiplicity. They'll have their own keyboards and mice always, because you never know what you have to do on these things. But basically the types of heals. You got a group heal. You don't really need to hotkey this in, because if you press this, as this one's word vivification, it's going to heal you out. So you really don't, but it should still be on your hotbar. Complete heal is not really used so much in this era. We just do chain heals of Ancient Hallowed Light usually. So complete heal kind of starts to go away when those fast heals start to crit for as much as complete heal would anyways. So you could do that for complete heal though. Say you're playing early on, you know, I used to have keys like this: target Frank the tank, and we'll pause for 10. And this can also be wrote the other way. I just out of habit write this after because I like the logical flow of it. And then cast, not even sure why it's up on the bar, cast 2. So, and then you could also do, you know, if you wanted to have multiple chain heals like a big fight. So then you have to pause for 11 seconds, which is what 110 represents. Yeah, because the cast time is 10 seconds. So you could do a big macro like this and fill the rest of the lines in with it. Otherwise, like I said, like your quick heals, you got PS Elixir, which is your heal over time. This could be cast 3, so you could just be like, call it hot, you know, and this could be whatever key you want, but it should be on your hotbar somewhere. So 2 could be your hot for your main tank, and that's the thing too. I don't usually tend to off heal anybody. I usually use the group heals, because if someone else is getting smacked that bad, then you're pretty much screwed anyways. But you could actually make like backup if you had a backup tank. Say it was not Frank the tank, but like Joe the monk or something like that. You could make a whole nother set for 5, 6, 7 to like heal in case something went wrong there and you had to actually heal another character. Otherwise, you're gonna manually click it. And then like fast heal, we'll just call it, you know, / target Frank the tank, pause 10. And my fast heal is, like I said, Ancient Hollow Light, which is down here at number 6. So 6. And then I got a fast heal button, and that might be like 1, 2, 3 as I'm playing the Cleric. And like I said, I tend to keep my Clerics off of anything else with multiplicity, usually on their own standalone computers. So what you put here, I still have 0 for follow usually because I'm just used to it. But you don't have to worry about pressing 1, 2, and 3 and passing through a slow or debuffed in their characters because it's usually separated. However, if it's not, make the arrangements accordingly. You know, if you've got, you know, a Shaman on here and it's doing slow and whatever in here, you don't want these fast heals going off, put in 5, 6, 7 or something. Do something different. The only other thing that you're really going to do is this Divine. You know, you're not going to want to click it, but you will want to drag it down the hotbar. So number 5 could be make you vulnerable, but not really too much else you're going to do, because you're not really going to want to be playing the Cleric like you're playing the Cleric. But you do have, you know, nukes and stuff like that, which you could assign to number 3 instead, and nuke AoE nukes. Like, you got all kinds of fun stuff, you know. It just depends on what you're going to be using this for, and I only use my Clerics for healing. Are you surprised? Healing and buffing, that's it. So you will not find me having really any more hotkeys than this. Tons of these AA shit though. You can put these on your hotbar anywhere, but usually I just drag them down here. So anything that can be activated, you know, all this crap. But you know, it gets kind of exhausting using this. And this is like my second Cleric, so I probably got to get him some more AA and gear him out. But they're mainly just heal bots for me, buff bots. So I don't get too elaborate on the actual macros for them. So that's the gist of that. One other thing is, I think I mentioned snaring, but it just works like any other thing. But I'll switch to a ranger just so we can look at snaring. But no surprise, like once you figure out how to set these macros up, it's literally, you know, assist and apply the spells. So let's switch to the snare quick. All right, here we have a ranger, and it looks like I do have snare up. So the only thing you could really do is, unless you want to make a separate key, so like you could even make this part of, like, your assist key. So this is just going to assist Frank the tank. It'll pause, and then you could just say cast 3 snared. And they have, you know, rangers also have nukes and stuff like that, so you can make like a little line so that when you press assist, it snares and nukes one time. So this is probably like the best way to do it. So you can just repress assist, which doesn't do anything because you're already auto attacking, and then cast 3 to snare. But you know, since you already are assisting and you have the mob targeted, you could literally drag it onto the hotkey, because you're going to be fighting whatever is trying to run. Hit number 4, it's the snare spell, dragged it right there, didn't even need a macro for it. So pretty simple. Probably didn't have to show you that, but just to make sure that we're clear that it really doesn't matter what the spells are or what the class is, it's all set up in a similar way. So that's pretty much the gist of macros. I can try to help you out. I'm not an advanced macro expert. These are just the common ones I use for boxing. There's a lot more sophisticated advanced ones. Hopefully you'll see the link below. But basically, the more keyboards and mice you have, like the less complex you want it to be, and you're literally going to look like a DJ playing at a rave, playing at a concert, wait for the beat to drop, pressing all these buttons. So you can't have your follow key be 0 here and 6 over there and then 6. You got to have it all arranged, all organized, and sorted the best you can, so that it's real easy. No matter what keyboard you hit, 0 falls. No matter what keyboard you hit, 3, you know, assists or nukes. You know, you got to know those things. Set it up ahead of time, because boxing is all about preparation. Because you're not going to be as fast as someone that is manually playing a character, and you are in charge of sometimes 3, 6, 12 characters, you got to be really fast and be able to implement what needs to happen to make the fight or raid a success. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.